Good morning, everyone. This is Dan O'Sullivan with your Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, July the 15th. Hey, we're going to have some of our usual crowd. We're going to have Tom, Lee, and Gentry checking in, and we're going to have a special in-studio guest to talk a little bit of Logan Martin and Lay Lake. That's our own pro staffer, Matt Herron. We'll be right back with what all these guys have to say about fishing on your local lake. Well, good morning, everyone. This is Dan O'Sullivan with your Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, July the 15th. We fired Josh Herron this week because we got his dad, Matt Herron, in here, who's been fishing a lot on Logan Martin and Lay Lake. Matt, what's happening at Logan Martin?
You know, Logan Martin right now is typical summertime deal. There's a lot of fish offshore on humps and ledges, and then the boat dock deal is still playing. You know, I've been up there this week 2 or 3 days, and we got the new Minn Kota Quest trolling motor. I've been working it out, making sure everything's good to go because we just got them installed and making sure all my Apex units are ready to go. You know, we're fixing to go up north to go smallmouth fishing, so I'm debugging a boat, but I've been using Logan Martin as kind of my test grounds to make sure everything's working. And you can get bites. The bites are there. Hadn't caught a lot of quality. You caught a lot of 2.5 pound fish, but you can catch them typical offshore deal. I caught some the other day, drop shot and shaky head, and it seemed like they were in 12 to 18 foot of water. And then, of course, the dock deal. The other day when I was there, they was actually on the river docks. So that was kind of the pattern at Logan Martin. I haven't. That's the gist of it. So I'm pretty sure it's probably the unanimous up and down the lake. You may go up the river. The river fish should be moved out on the offshore shoals and stuff, and then it'll be kind of predicated by current. But it's standard issue summertime patterns right now.
What do you do to fish that offshore stuff? Do you just try to get it as early as possible and get off when the boats start, or is it just something that you do during the midweek?
Well, I do it all day long, but, there's typically those spotted bass like to bite right at daylight. I don't know what it is, and they'll set up on those offshore humps and stuff, and I think what's happening, they're feeding during the night, and they'll still be there early in the mornings, and then they'll kind of disappear. You'll have an hour or two window to catch them, and then on up in the day, typically around noon or whenever they fire those turbines up, they'll kind of reposition and reset back up. Even with you take your life in your own hands sometimes with all those wave makers out there. make sure you don't forget where you are and keep looking around. Make sure ain't nobody gonna run over you. But the fish are there, and you can get bites. It's getting bites on a hot summer day is still good.
Yep. All right, so let's talk about Lay Lake a little bit. You've been spending most of your time on Logan, but you always know what's going on. What's going on down there at Lake?
Yeah, Lay Lake's kind of the same typical summertime patterns. If you get down there on a day when the water's real full, up full pool, there'll be somewhat of a grass bite. It always is. You got fish or resident fish in that grass. But, you get down there on those days and that water's, outbound pyres pulled it down a foot and, you don't have a lot of flow. The fish are either going to be on the offshore ledges and humps or in the standing timber. So that's kind of been the standard pattern for Lay Lake for years and years and years. I fished it my whole life, and it hadn't changed any. You got a typical river bite up there, but it's all predicated by current. If you get up there in the days they got a little current flow going, you can get up there and throw a shaky head or wash the jig around and throw a plug, and you can get into some pretty good schooling action right now. I actually saw some schooling action on Logan Martin yesterday, some spotted bass. They're already starting to get wadded up on the baits, and I'm sure it's going on at Lay Lake too. But the grass deal, frog, I like to flip a worm this time of year at Lay. Kind of get, it gets in the hot dog days. And, getting bites is fun. Everybody wants to go fishing and get bites. If I was fishing a tournament, kind of fishing for bigger fish, I'd be throwing Reaction Innovations beavers, spicy beavers, punching some kind of jig. My Signature Series jig works really, really good this time of year, especially on the edge of that deeper water willow. But that's a grind. That's a 6, 7, 8 bite, a day tournament tile. It's a, situation. But if you want to take your kids fishing, time on a worm, time on a frog, something fun, and stay on the shaded banks. I highly recommend it.
Well, that'll do it, folks. That's our Bucks Island Area Fishing Report with Matt. Good morning, everyone. This is Dan O'Sullivan with your Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, July the 15th, and we're joined by our good friend Tom Ott, who's the king of Lake Guntersville. And we're here to hear what he has to say about fishing on the big lake in the sky. What's going on, Tom?
Yeah, Jester, I think is what we go by here in this part of the lake. Dano, we were out there the whole weekend. There were the temperature of the lake, was upper 80s. A lot of floating grass. I found it a little bit tougher this past week than it had been. You start to really see some of the dog days are coming out. A lot of fish. what really struck me strange was that we found probably, I think, 4 really large schools of fish, and to see that many fish and not get them to bite, it was just it was kind of odd. And I don't know if that was so much weather. I kind of tend to think that's just a lot of people riding over them, and they're just, but generally they would scatter in that kind of situation. And we found it really difficult to get fish to bite. And when we did get them to bite, they looked like they'd been beat on some, So there's a lot of fish all over that lake. It's a little bit tougher right now. I think your late in the evening bite is probably the best, even into the nighttime. But that late evening bite seems to be the strongest, especially for your top water baits and things like that. The morning just hasn't been that great here in the last few weeks. But as far as fish biting, I just found it a little tougher this past week. And again, I don't know if that's just the heat coming on or exactly what, but work at it, and we still came up with a nice 5 fish limit, but it was tough for sure.
I know that those fish get out there and they get into those schools, and the problem is that there's 7 gajillion boats out there looking for those schools. Is it time to just really kind of downsize and do something different to catch those fish? Because everybody's throwing the plugs and the swim baits and the jigs and the flutter spoons. Is it time to do something different?
I had 5 rods on the deck, and I threw every single bait I had at them. Jennifer's sitting back there with a Carolina rig, and she was wearing me out. So, maybe it's more kiss mode. Keep it simple, stupid, because we're just jerks waiting for a jerk on the other end. But I tried a lot of things. It just found it a little bit more difficult. I don't know if I was pressing or what, but there's still quite a few fish to be caught. I'm seeing these reports, giant bags coming in, a lot of boats, but I do think a lot of it, you're going to have to just maybe change up the color a little bit. We throw something different all the time, just try to get something going. And that's a good deal to stick with for sure.
Well, that'll wrap up our Bucks Island Area Fishing Report with Tom. Thanks, brother.
Hey, I appreciate you guys. Tight lines. Be safe.
Good morning, everyone. This is Dan O'Sullivan with your Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, July 15th. We are joined by Lee Pitts to talk a little bit of Neely Henry and Weiss Lake. Let's start at Neely Henry this week. What do you hear coming out of Neely Henry?
I'm glad you started with Neely because it's got the star on it this week. Neely's still doing pretty good. It's with the river system that it has, you still got some pretty good water, some deeper water around some of that grass. You can still get a flipping bite. Still a good morning bite on it too. But Neely has been fishing a little better, even with a spotted bass. You've got you going upriver past the bridges, and you've got some wood cover up that way. They've been pulling some water. Everybody's flipping them air conditioners on, so they're trying to get all the power rolling that they can. So Neely right now is looking pretty good.
Is there a crappie bite on the lake right now? Are you hearing of anything, seeing anything?
A little bit. Most of them are out there. More of a crappie bite on Weiss right now, and that's kind of surprising to me, but we've been catching them there. But Neely, we still got some on the deeper docks out towards the river. A lot of the brush that's out there downriver, the fish are kind of getting on some of that. Normally this time of year they bust up and just get away from each other, but right now Neely and Weiss, they're really holding tight to that brush out there on the river channel.
What are the techniques that are catching the bass right now on Neely?
A lot of guys, like I said, they're still flipping that grass, some kind of little creature bait. I think they've got away from that jig a little bit. And I know a lot of guys are pitching little Texas rig worms, 6-inch worms, something like that, upriver, something like a ribbon tail, a little bit bigger, to try to get some of those largemouth to come out. But just up there, just getting tight on that wood and pitching and flipping. A little bit of a cranking bite, main lake, some of that kind of stuff. But I think the bigger fish is going to be throwing some kind of plastic on them.
Last 45 seconds. Tell me what's going on at Weiss Lake overall right now.
Weiss has been kind of tough the last week. We've had the fish were starting to get out there deep and starting to get on some of that structure out there on the drops. But we've had some rain in the evenings and a little bit of wind, and it's kind of cooled the water back down a little. So they don't know what to do. They don't want to get out there and really lock down on that deep stuff, and they're kind of getting away from the shallow with the water dropping. So it's just one of those hit and miss deals. If you can find that wood cover, 3 to 5 feet, and some of those hard spots out there off the edge of the creek channels and things like that may have a little hard clay bottom or some rock on it, those spots are going to lay on it. But just kind of that mid range right now. They're not super shallow, and they're not out there in that deep stuff. So you got to hit that mid range.
Well, Lee, we appreciate everything, brother. Thanks for the time. We'll talk to you again next week.
All right, guys. Y'all have a good weekend.
Well, good morning, everyone. This is Dan O'Sullivan with your Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, July the 15th. Hey, we're joined by Gentry Gordy on the phone. Gentry, what's going on at Lake Martin right now?
It's hot, Dano, and the fish are they're deep. It's just the nature of the beast this time of year. Not saying you can't catch something on top water early, but if you do, they're going to be small, and it's a short window. But you're better fish, and your numbers they're just coming out deep, anywhere 15 to all the way out 30. I hadn't fished anything deeper than 30. I ain't got enough line, but. They're just deep, your big main lake points, not necessarily the point, but where they drop off into the deep water early in the morning, or earlier in the day, as those points start to taper, they kind of move up, but as the sun comes on up and it gets warm, they're going to those first deep drops. Carolina rig, big crankbaits, big shaky head, stuff like that.
Man, 30 feet, you're talking my home language out there with a shaky head, maybe even a dart head, a little 6-inch worm. What about Jordan Lake? What are you hearing out of there?
I actually talked to some friends because I hadn't had a chance to get up there. But they are catching them using their live, their front-facing sonar, 20 to 30 feet. Alabama rigs, Carolina rigs, Demiki rigs, stuff. Those fish have really pulled off deep. The boat traffic up there is bad the way it is at Martin, and it messes with those fish, so they move off. Some people don't have the forward-facing sonar, so I would look for your channel swings, and if you don't have it, you're more with your Carolina rigs, your big jigs, and stuff like that. But definitely from what I've heard, 20 foot and deeper.
Do they seem to be suspending kind of in the guts, in the mouths, or are they suspending around cover?
You'll find them both. If you get a good channel swing, or just where like the mouth of a pocket drops off into a deep ditch right there, it could just be a change in bottom and hold them. But of course, if you can find your structure in there, your deep piles, they're hovering right above it. They're still chasing some bait out deep.
Any chance a jerkbait might work on some of those fish?
If I think earlier in the day, Dano, you know what I mean? Like, mid-morning to early to mid-morning, they may move up in that water column. Your deeper jerkbaits, I think, will get down there and probably pick one or two off, but as that sun gets up, they're just going to get too deep for a jerkbait.
Brother, we appreciate everything. Have a great rest of your day and a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, guys. Y'all too.
Well, that'll do it for our Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, July 15th. Thanks to the guys for everything that they do every week to help us put a few fish in the boat. Whether they're big or little, they're all fun. And don't forget, Bucks Island's your headquarters for fun, whether you want to go boating with the family, bass boating and catching a few fish. We got the sails, we got the service, we got the parts, and we've got the tackle to help you get on the water, stay on the water, and enjoy it while you're out there. Thanks for spending the time with us. You are the best part of Bucks Island, and we appreciate you.